Most marriages are collapsing because of non-stop argument. It's hard to build friendship with someone who argues with you all the time. The question is, why do people argue in the first place? Is it possible to live with someone without arguing at all? In this episode, we discuss how you can avoid unnecessary disagreement, unnecessary argument in your relationship.
Before we continue with today's topic, remember to subscribe and click the notification bell so you know when we post new episodes. Welcome to Mike and Christelle podcast, where family meets faith and fun. The idea that there are unnecessary disagreements suggests that there are necessary disagreements. The best way to avoid unnecessary disagreements is not to avoid disagreement altogether.
Yes. Not all disagreement should be avoided. Some disagreements are necessary. They are needed.
Disagreement can be healthy.
Yes.
Disagreement should be anticipated.
Yes.
Disagreement breeds innovation.
Yes. When we say disagreement should be anticipated, it means you can't live life thinking that people will agree with you all the time. Yeah. You can't live life thinking that your wife or your husband will agree with you on everything all the time. That is utopia. That is not even realistic. You should anticipate disagreement. You should live life knowing that my wife may disagree with this or my husband may disagree with this. It's a good attitude to know that it's okay to have disagreement. And disagreement breeds innovation. When we disagree with the status quo, when we disagree with how things are, that's where we bring innovation. That's where we move forward.
Disagreement simply displays different opinions.
Yes.
Whenever you perceive things differently, you are in disagreement.
Yes.
Whenever you see things from a different perspective, there is conflict.
There is conflict. You know, people think conflict is only when people are yelling at each other. No. Conflict is when you bring different opinions to the table. When I see things differently, when you bring your opinion and I bring my opinion, there is conflict. It is very important to understand that conflict is not necessarily when people are hurt, when people are affected emotionally, not necessarily.
To avoid unnecessary arguments, you need to do the followings. Number one, know the difference between disagreement and resentment.
Yes.
That's the first place to start, isn't it?
As a couple, yes.
Yeah,
that's the first
because
place to start.
some couples, especially when they're starting, they think when you have a disagreement, that means you don't love each other anymore.
Yeah, that means there is resentment.
Yeah, because you have to be on the same page all the time on everything.
Not every disagreement should lead to resentment, because resentment is when there is hurt, when one or the two of you are hurting or your emotions have been negatively affected. While disagreement happens when you don't hold the same view.
Sometimes disagreement can lead to resentment.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because you can have different opinions.
Yes.
When not be able to.
If you don't communicate it well, you can hurt the other side and lead to resentment.
So the biggest issue here is to know the difference, and even not only to know the difference, but to know that it doesn't have to lead to resentment.
Yes.
Like when
it's okay to have disagreement. Yeah. It's okay to disagree, to have different opinions. Yeah. But it's important to know that the fact that we are having different opinions doesn't mean we are in a resentment. It doesn't mean necessarily there is a problem. It doesn't mean necessarily that we are fighting.
Yeah, third war.
Yes, it's not a third world war.
World war.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that
war. Yes.
War.
So okay. That's the point. The point is, sometimes young couples they will think that romance means saying yes to everything. When you bring an idea, oh yes, baby, and when I bring an idea, oh yes, baby, and that's romance. Like we are
Yeah.
living in this utopian world where
Rightfully so, when they're young,
yeah,
when you're young, you think a bit different.
And I want them to know. I want them to know that that's not life.
But that's not how it's gonna stay.
That's not life. Yes,
If you want,
it should not be like that. In fact, even
if you want your marriage to
saying yes to everything doesn't mean you love the person.
Yes,
it doesn't make you a good person to always say yes, always say yes, always say yes.
Well, you get to a point where you realize, wait, this is getting
it's not helpful.
tiring.
It's not helpful. So it's okay to have different views. It's okay to think differently. If you want more on this discussion, you can watch or listen to our episodes, Decoding Your Spouse, where we talk about communication. I think couples should understand that every disagreement is not necessarily, it does not need to lead toward resentment. You know the difference. Always know the difference when one of you is already hurt, or both of you are hurting, or there is no hurt at all. Like it's just a exchange of different opinions.
Always let your partner know when your disagreement is shifting into a resentful argument.
Yes.
That means you have to be aware of
how you feel. Yes.
While you were talking about the disagreement.
Yes.
And then if it shifts from you feel hurt,
yes,
that means you
mention it.
You have to mention it and be like
that is very important. That is really crucial, because if we are having a conversation, my wife and I feel like she said something that has affected me, and I don't mention it,
like you have
or like I've said something that affected her,
you have
like she says that hair. I'm having gray hair, that's really insulting. No.
Serious. Okay.
Okay. If one of you says something that affects you, it's important to differentiate between the actual argument, the actual disagreement, and the hurtful comment. Because sometimes people, instead of realizing that this conversation has shifted from just a disagreement to now a resentment, you mix the two and you raise your voices and things change and now you are fighting. It's important to tell your partner, I think you've hurt me by what you've just said.
Yeah.
So they understand you need to shift. Now things are not, they are no longer about disagreement. We are now talking about resentment. It's no longer just a discussion. It's now a hurtful conversation, so a situation that we need to deal with.
Yeah. When there is resentment, stop
everything.
Trying to be right. No, it's just it changes everything. Like it's no longer someone sharing their opinion. It becomes
the purpose of a disagreement is I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I want you to, or some people feel like I'm right and you are wrong. So I want to prove to you that you are wrong.
Yeah.
But when there is already resentment, you should stop trying to prove that you are right and focus on the hurt, on the pain. Like when you have hurt someone, or when someone has been hurt in the conversation, it shouldn't be about who is wrong and right anymore. All that should stop and move to how can we fix the problem? How can we heal the wound? Because whenever there is a resentment, the pain becomes the priority, not winning the argument. But when there is a disagreement, you still keep trying to build your case and bring other. If you continue to build your case while someone is already offended, it's not helpful. So don't try to win a disagreement while one of you is already hurt. Healing the resentment is better than winning the disagreement. Some people get offended every time their partners disagrees with them. That's another issue. You shouldn't be offended simply because someone said no. That's a big mistake. That's pride. It's okay your spouse to disagree with you.
Yeah.
It's okay your husband to say no to your plans. It's okay your wife to say no to your plans. It's okay. So don't be offended simply because they said no. No. Yeah.
And also, don't always say yes because you want to avoid conflict. Some people do that.
Yes,
they
a
say
lot.
yes, so because they don't want conflict,
Yes.
or they don't want resentment, or
Yes.
yeah, that doesn't help either.
It's not helpful to just
Yeah.
simply say yes because you don't want conflict. That's another big mistake couples make or people make in their relationships. You just say yes, yes, yes to make the other person feel happy. Well, no one can be right all the time. No one can be always on the right side of the road all the time. I think it's important to listen to both sides.
Yeah.
So saying yes all the time is detrimental. It's not helpful to relationships at all. And if you are in a relationship and you want your spouse to always say yes, you are really, really, really wrong. You are really wrong. And if you always say yes, you are also wrong. If you always say yes or you expect always a yes, both of you are wrong.
Disagreement is always built on perception.
Yes.
Every time there is misunderstanding, a disagreement, a conflict, there is a clash in perception. Yeah.
Yes. We disagree because we perceive things differently.
Yeah.
And that is very important. Once you realize that you are not on the same page, remember, it's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of perception. And some people, they come into conversations with a very strong opinion, thinking that they are right, and you should listen to them because they know better. That's wrong in a relationship. The fact that you are already spouses of a wife and husband, it means you are equal, and your opinions are equal.
Yeah.
Are equal. Don't bring suggestions with this mindset that you are right and everything they say or whatever they say is wrong.
Yeah.
No.
Everyone is entitled to have different
perspective, yes,
and opinions,
yes.
And so this is something that you have to persuade each other. Sit down and.
You should try to persuade each other, not try to convince each other. Don't try to convince me. Don't try to convince your spouse. Because my wife, you don't try to convince me.
I ain't got time for that. Yeah, I try to persuade you.
Persuade me. I think you win. You win when you persuade your spouse than try to convince them that you were right.
Yeah.
It's very important to learn this.
Yeah.
Always, great couples do not convince each other.
They persuade each other.
They persuade each other.
Yeah.
So disagreement is okay, but learn to persuade each other than convincing each other. And whenever there is hurt, there is resentment, shift. Stop trying to win the disagreement. Try to heal the resentment.
Yeah.
We have some recommendations for you if you are looking for ways to avoid unnecessary disagreement in your marriage or in your relationship. The first thing to do is try not to avoid disagreement altogether. Like, do not avoid disagreement. It's not a bad thing to disagree. So prepare yourself. You should anticipate disagreement. There is a healthy way to disagree.
Yeah.
And that is important because we need to challenge the status quo. If we've been doing things the same way, it should come a time when someone feels like, why can't we change this? Why can't we do it differently? And that is disagreement. Once someone sees things differently, it's automatically disagreement. And it's okay.
Try to recognize when there is resentment.
Yes.
First of all, disagreement doesn't have to lead to resentment.
No.
But in case it has led there already,
Yes.
you need to be able to recognize, hey, this is not a disagreement.
Things have gone bad. Yeah.
Things have gone bad. We need to solve this first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You need to solve the resentment first before you solve the disagreement. There is a big difference, let's say the slight difference, the thin line between disagreement and resentment, and they are not the same. Some people confuse the two. It's not the same thing. Resentment or hurt is one thing. Disagreement is another. It's healthy. Resentment isn't healthy. Sometimes another thing that people do is you start a disagreement because you are already resentful.
Yeah.
So you've been hurt and you start an argument.
Yeah.
That is something we need to address in this conversation. Always begin by why you are saying what you are saying. Why you are doing what you are doing. Your spouse needs to know if you are hurt. Don't just start this big scene and while your problem is not about the credit card, but you are talking about the credit card. Why did you do this? Why did you do this? And it's not about the credit card. And the problem is not even there. The problem, you've been hurt by something else.
Yeah.
It is important to express when you are hurt. Don't just create these scenarios in the house where everybody's afraid of you. People don't know what to say because you are hurt and you are not expressing why you are hurt.
Yeah.
I think it takes skills on both sides. It takes skill on the side that
being
is
intentional and being intentional.
If you are hurt, it takes maturity to say it in a loving way that you hurt me when you did this.
Yeah.
And if you've been you are dealing with someone who has been hurt, it takes also maturity to focus on the hurt and forget the word they are saying. Because when people are hurting or people are hurt, they say so many things.
Yeah.
And for you, the listener, you need to be able to just pick the hurt and ignore all the insults or all, sorry to call them insults, but when someone's angry,
when someone's
the
angry,
effects of the hurt.
Think properly. So they say so many things.
Yes.
Including what they want to say.
Yes.
Plus other unnecessary stuff.
Yes.
So being able to
recognize
that this person is really angry.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure what they're saying they don't mean.
Yes.
But I think they're trying to tell me something.
Yes.
So what is it that they're trying to say?
Yes. That's maturity to try to understand the resentment in a disagreement.
Yeah.
But most of the time, so sometimes people will focus on the disagreement and they ignore the resentment. They ignore the pain from the person who is talking.
Yeah.
They just keep addressing the disagreement. They want to win the argument while the person is already not even listening. When somebody is hurt, when somebody is resentful, they don't even listen to whatever argument you're bringing forward. They don't. And the third one is try to encourage healthy disagreement. By encouragement, we say, let your partner know that it's okay to disagree with you. It's important to build this culture of healthy conversations where people don't feel judged or people don't feel like they can't express themselves because they will be misunderstood.
Yeah.
You need to build a culture in your relationship, and by culture we mean it should be a habit. It should be a habit every day that you don't judge each other or you don't misunderstand each other when it comes to
just because you have different opinions on something.
Everyone should feel like it's okay to disagree with each other, and it's not going to end into a fight or into a resentment. It's okay to just have a disagreement and conclude, and that's it. You don't need to end up there. So try not to avoid disagreement altogether. Try to recognize when there is resentment, and try to encourage a healthy disagreement culture. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, every time you share any of our content on social media, one potential family gets healthier.
Follow Mike and Christelle on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, when family is healthy, the nation is healthy. Bye. Bye.
Bye.